So I wanted to talk a little bit more about show and tell in relationships, which is really about our identity, our paradigms around our identity, and then how we operate in the world. So just kind of like a refresher from the last video about that. When we meet each other and we're in an early phase of the relationship, like the first stage is like, attraction, right? But kind of right behind that is identity building. And that's when we are telling someone else, I'm the kind of person who blank, I'm this, I'm that. So sometimes you might get you might get a person in front of you who says something like, I'm the kind of person that you can always rely on. I am always there for my friends. Or you might get someone who's coming from a need to prove themselves in a different way. They might say like, I am from insert city. That means I'm a badass. Don't fuck with me. What you'll find is the deeply insecure people need constant validation about their identity, what they're telling you. So for example, the person who needs to feel like a badass is going to go out and find opportunities to get in conflicts with people so that they can feel like that they can win and they can feel like I'm a badass. The person who feels like, I need people to rely on me for me to feel good about myself. It's part of my identity. It's part of what makes me feel good inside. They may go out of their way to find ways to give to people. And that's tricky because sounds good, but if you are not balanced, you can go way in a wrong direction with that and get yourself into, I'm not even thinking physically unsafe, but like emotionally unsafe dynamics in situations, and then feel resentful, like, I'm showing up for everybody. Why are they treating me like this? So the identities we build for ourselves are really important. The paradigms we use are really important because they determine how we show up in the world. They determine what identity we're trying to protect. Now, I should say, I want to feel like it's, actually, I feel like all religions kind of do this, where they kind of, they want to get people out of that, like, ego identity of like, this is the identity I've constructed, and so some people, try to eliminate their ego, and then some people try to like transcend it. Some people try to focus on like, focus on God instead or whatever. So I feel like there's like a prevalent underlying spiritual religious push towards getting people out of this or transforming it in a way. But that is for somebody else to discuss. That's not for me. What I more know about is how we can switch paradigms to have better outcomes that are healthier for us. So, if, one that I've kind of more stepped into has been like, I'm a person who learns. I'm a person who grows. I try to leave things better than I found it. And that so far seems to be working out. We're all trying. We're all like, experimenting. We're trying to figure out what works. I always marvel at people who seem to like, I know the answer. I'm like, man, how do y'all know this? How are you so confident? You can tell everybody how to live their lives. Like, Anyway, so one thing that'll really show up is when people have a vastly different dichotomy between what they're telling you who they are and how they actually are, so who they're telling you and what they're showing you seem to be like two totally different things. Run away. Not a safe person, because they're either lying to you or they're lying to themselves, or both, right? You might be dealing with an intentional manipulator, or you might be dealing with somebody who just can't accept the truth about themselves, or they're like, I want to be this person, right? But they're not that person. That's not, you can't rely on that person. They are not a reliable narrator for themselves, clearly. So the more insecure somebody is about their identity, the more they're gonna try to get you to validate it, or get other people to validate it, or get into circumstances that validate it. And I feel like that's where some of this, like, don't call yourself a victim mentality comes in. Like, call yourself a survivor. Other people do not get to dictate to us our identities. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Part of the healing process is once you get safe, and this can start even before, because, but getting a true sense of what's going on. And like, if the reality is that you are being victimized, part of healing, the part of that healing process and recovery and leaving and moving on is getting really clear. Oh, that's what's happening. I am being victimized. I'm a victim right here. And maybe I don't want this. And okay, let me take some steps now. So when people like try and come in and thought police, feelings police, try to control how you think, trying to control how you feel, trying to control what you believe, no. So, every time I see that pop up, and I haven't seen it in a minute on the subreddit, but like, it's shown up before, and it's like, no, we're not telling people how to go through their process. Like, tools, hey, this worked for me, but like, we're not shaming people for being in that space of like, I need to integrate my reality now that I've been in this abusive situation or traumatic situation or whatever. And sometimes we dissociate from, like, we have to in order to sometimes handle like what we're dealing with. So to be in that space of like, oh, I'm a victim. Somebody else isn't going to come along and like, no, you're a survivor, because that's this whole other paradigm. Like, okay, let's explore that for a hot second. Okay. So if you build your identity around being a survivor, right? Then you're going to look for opportunities to survive things, maybe. Like, I don't think that's equally helpful necessarily. Obviously for that person, it's helpful in their journey, but it's kind of the same thing. Now, do you want someone rolling up on you, telling you that you shouldn't use the word survivor? No, not boo-boo. But I do feel like, and it's subconscious, we do like to feel like, oh, I'm further along in my healing process. If only this other person would do this thing, then they would be further along. And I have information to share about that. And we got to remember, the primacy of rightness is a trap. Okay? People who think that being right is most important, watch out for them. Being kind, being compassionate, not being shaming people. The first thing, the most important thing is how we treat people. I'm not saying being right isn't important, or acknowledging what is right isn't important, but being right is not the most important thing. So if someone shows up and they're not right, fucking relax. Stay in your lane. Is it your business? And if it's not something you can deal with, opt out and subscribe. Like, no, man, I'm not vibing with you there. I don't agree. Now, obviously, like, especially socially at some point, sometimes we gotta, stand up and fight for what's right. Again, nuances, but, for right now, talking about the healing process and people, like, moving forward, if someone's like, I'm a victim, that's what they're dealing with. If someone's like, oh, I'm a survivor, that's what they're dealing with. I personally am in the, like, oh, damn, I learned a lot stage. And then someday later it's gonna be something else, I assume, because another part of it is like, I grow. So like, we are all on this road journey together, and we're all at different points, and we don't need to come back and shame somebody for not being where we think they should be, and we don't need to let other people do that to us. It's not their journey. They just need to relax. Everybody needs to stay in their lane. So one thing I do want to say, we get really attached to our identities, to these paradigms. Sometimes to our detriment. Sometimes they can be really powerful. Like, if you pick a really good paradigm, and just a refresher, a paradigm is, it's our way of thinking. So it affects how we interpret information, or what information we allow in the first place, how we interpret that information, and the conclusions we draw, which then again affect what information we allow in, what conclusions we have. It's a circle. It's self-reinforcing in a lot of ways. So anyway, if you have like a really good paradigm, I don't want to say good, but if you've got a paradigm that's working for you, like you're like, yeah, I feel great. My life's great. I'm going great. This paradigm is working for me. That's great. Maybe you don't need to think about which paradigm you're using. I personally also just want to put this out there. I feel like you can switch paradigms. I don't feel like anyone needs to be attached to one specific paradigm. Like, oh, this is it. This is the truth about me. Like, I feel like paradigms are a tool and you can switch them out when you need them. I don't remember her name. Oh, she's on Reddit and she has like a blog. She's amazing. But she came up, another Redditor came up, to the understanding that we get trapped in toxic dynamics, abusive relationships, unsafe situations, not because of our vices, but because of our virtues. So we, have this identity, this paradigm we operate off of. I'm a loyal person. I'm a loving person. I don't give up on people. I'm not a quitter. Whatever it is. And, I show up for people. And then so we find ourselves, we're in that slow-moving horror movie. Because suddenly stuff's going wrong. We don't get in the car and leave. We go investigate the basement. We're like, what's down here? I have questions. And so we're going, oh, shit, no, let me get out. Because, because of how we perceive ourselves. We will endure so much pain to not feel like we're betraying our identity. In fact, most people don't ever really get to the point where they've betrayed their identity. For the most part, they usually just switch it out for a different paradigm because we can't tolerate, feeling like we've done that. So we go, oh, no. Oh, okay. And then, whether or not we do it consciously or not, we shift to a new one. So it might be, maybe I'm still a loyal person, but now I'm loyal to me. Maybe I'm still a loving person, but now I'm loving to me. I'm still a person who shows up, but I show up for me. That is the power of the paradigm that we use in building our identity. And again, there are some people that are like, they are transcending their ego, or they don't like have it, or they've done something, truly, I don't know, spiritual and magical. Like, great for them. I don't know how to do that. What I do know how to do is like go, oh, okay, this is the world map I'm using for the universe. Okay, let's try a different one. Maybe this isn't the one for this. Switch that out. That's the thing that works for me, and that's what I'm passing along. So let me just check my notes. I was on my walk again, and I was like, I have things to tell. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. So healthy people tend to, their show and their tell tend to be really in alignment with the, I don't want to say healthy people. Let's go with authentic. Authentic's better. Authentic people, because an authentic person might be like, I'm authentically an asshole. They've told you and they've shown you. You're a reliable narrator for exactly who you are, even if it's not technically like positive. Okay. Let's see. Oh. Okay. So people are mirrors for us. This is particularly important, when it comes to children. Children don't grow up with like an intrinsic sense of like, this is who I am as a person. People reflect that back to them. We constantly do it. Holy shit. We were telling kids who they are. Oh, you're so this. I have friends who they keep calling their daughter a princess, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh, I mean, you're dressing her that way, but I'm not getting that vibe. But all right. But maybe, that's what they're reflecting back to her, like, oh, you're a princess. So, she might be at some point. This is not I'm just thirsty. I'm not advertising. I'm so thirsty. Okay. So the thing is, that's honestly people reflecting ourselves back to us. That's not a bad thing. That's just a tool. It depends on the person who's doing the mirroring. Whether or not we can trust what they say, whether they're a reliable narrator about who we are. I discovered really quickly into my relationship with my ex that he was not a reliable narrator for me. We would argue about that. And instead of me going, oh, I tried to leave. I tried to leave at the very beginning. I tried ending that shit so many times. All my friends were so tired of listening to it. I'm absolutely certain. He told me, he's like, you're unstable. I was like, I'm trying to stay away. But also, he'd hoover me back in. But also, I really, loved him. He loved it. It's not... It's hard. Not every abuse dynamic is one of, like, someone's, like, this Machiavellian, master manipulator. Like, he's harming out of his subconscious unexamined needs, that are harmful for other people. Anyway, so when we have somebody who's an unreliable narrator and we are not strong in ourselves, like I wasn't strong in myself, so they tell you something about yourself, you're like, oh, this is true about me. Or like if you're a kid, you know what I mean? Like, this is adults, we're not talking about kids. Kids, that's my heart. Oh, babies. So much of overcoming that stuff in childhood is unlearning what people have told us about ourselves. That's incredibly difficult. And the fact that we even get halfway there, or even if we can't get all the way there, like the fact that we are able to even make a dent in that, like kudos to us, because it is super hard. We're kicking ass. Wherever we're at, we're kicking ass, because that's, it's essentially brainwashing. Parents are supposed to brainwash their kids in a positive direction, but sometimes that's not what happens. So when we get these people who reflect back to us this distorted image of ourselves, and we're not certain, we're not strong in ourselves about, like, nah, man, that's not, I know what's up. That's not true. We take the reflection as accurate. We're like, oh, that's who I am. But when we're strong in ourselves, we look at that reflection, we're like, oh, you're a funhouse mirror. Oh, I'm sorry. We realize, like, no, that distorted reflection is a reflection of their distorted thinking, their distorted way of seeing the world. And it has nothing to do with us. We can't come in and, change them, because, again, we got to stay in our lane, right? We're not going to prove to this other person that, no, there's love out there. You can be happy. Like, the way you're thinking is wrong. I think it might be fair to say, hey, the way you're thinking might not be helpful, but we telling somebody else, like, if you got some person in front of you who's like, oh, all women are this, or all men are that. This is not the moment for you to be like, oh, I will prove to them I'm so amazing. Then they'll know not all men are this or all women are that. Right? Because paradigms. What is a paradigm? It's our way of how we view the world. It's our way of thinking about the world. It's our operating MO. And it affects the information that we take in, and then how we process that information and the conclusions we draw. And it's self-reinforcing. It doesn't matter if you show up as the most amazing person. You know what I mean? There's going to be something, and they're going to reinforce that nonsense. All men are this, all women are that. We truly can't change their mind, but, like, even trying, like, it's not even, don't do it. It's a trap. Or was it Admiral Akbar? Like, it's a trap. Run away. So yeah, if you're dealing with somebody with a distorted mirror, they are the ones who have to straighten out. They got to do that from the inside. I can't do that for you. You can't do that for them. Like, can't do it. When we think we can, and we're not staying in our lane, that is when we get into trouble. And there's a lot of pain and hurt in doing that. our better option is go, oh, that's where you're at. Okay, well, I'm going to take a step back. And that person may have, sometimes people have these paradigms about like, no one is there for me or no one supports me or something. And, that may be true because of how they are in the world, most people are going to run into somebody with like that idea and think like, oh, I want to hang out with you. This will be awesome. And the person who does, who's like, oh no, I'll be here for you so much that like you'll change your mind. And like I have been that person and it doesn't work. Voice of experience, people got to change from the inside. And they got to perceive other people differently. Oh, I have the best example of this. So one of my like identity paradigm things, and it's been this way since I was a kid. Like I have the belief, founded or not, that I have amazing people in my life. I've always had amazing people in my life. I've got friends. I've got a friend from elementary school. I've got a friend from middle and high school. I've got, my godfather from when I was 11. I mean, I got a list of people who have shown up, who are just incredible, amazing people. I've just got such amazing friends. So anyway, what had happened was my ex, when we separated, tried to keep my friend group. And I was like, man, you can't do this. You can't show up to these activities. Like my friend group activities, like that doesn't, where does that leave me? He basically kind of like took over my own life because he didn't like his own, again, critical, negative, judgmental, toxic, deeply unhappy people, right? He didn't like his life. He didn't like his friends. If he didn't have a lot of long-term relationships, but if he did, they were toxic and he didn't respect those people. So, we started dating and he loves all my people. He's like, I don't have the chance to meet quality people like this. Like I really love being in this group, and I was like, you don't understand. You can't, no, this doesn't this doesn't leave me anywhere to go. Like, you take over my group. I literally can't hang out with my group now. He kept pushing it. It was something we'd argue about. But the thing was, what he didn't realize was that he couldn't substitute himself into my friend group and have the same dynamic and interaction with them. This also showed up with my ex-friend who has been stalking me. She also really loves my friend group. And the thing is she doesn't even live in my state, in my city. So she's still like, holding on real tight because she's burned all of her bridges with her other friend groups and every other place she's ever lived. And so the thing is I got this text from her where she's like, you can't, you don't own people. And it's like, man, I'm not saying that they're not your friends because I own them. I'm saying they're not your friends because they're not your friends. Like, that's a fact. Somebody tolerating you is not the same thing as a friendship. Both he and she thought they would just switch themselves out for me and that they would have the same connections with these people. And the thing is, they're not the same as I am. So they're not going to have the same connections as I do. So that my identity is I have amazing people in my life. Their identity, very scarcity mindset of like, oh, I don't have good people. I need to keep these good people, whatever it takes, whatever boundaries I'm gonna sit there and cross. Like, I don't care. My needs are more important. How I feel is more important than what other people think and need. Anyway, so so he tried it. She's still trying it, and the results are not the same. Because how I am with people is very different than how they are. He definitely, they share kind of a couple things in common. He would be like, oh, I'm so goofy and offbeat and, in that energy, and she would definitely access like that, like, oh, manic party kind of, oh, I'm here to party kind of a deal, which I'm not gonna lie, I've been there too, like, yeah. But they're both deeply contemptuous of other people. Even if you can hide it well, it doesn't matter, because on some level you don't enjoy being around people. You don't respect them. The point at which I realized with her, that I was like, oh, I'm good, was we were talking, and she's like, yeah, I got into this argument with this person. And I was like, girl, yeah, let me know. Like, I want to read this, because I want to, one of my identity building pieces is I like to, I show up. I show up for my friends. So I was like, yeah, girl, tell me. I'm going to, look that up. And so I go look it up, and she's talking about me. And this, really, I was like, is this what you think? It's one thing to recognize, oh, okay, this is somebody and they've got flaws. It's another to be mean about it. Why are you friends with me if this is how you feel about me? What? No. Because nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. They're not perfect. So, I have this identity piece of I have good people in my life. But is there a possibility, paradigm-wise, that maybe I have good people in my life because I see the good in people, because I am with them a certain way, and that also better recognizing when people aren't safe people. Now, last year was very hard for me because I was making choices, because I was in this deep pain and anguish, and I was barely tolerating existence. I would lay in bed and daydream about, I wish I were just mist on the ocean, and I just, there's a Hans Christian Andersen's The Original Mermaid story. If you don't have a soul when a mermaid dies, they just mist on the ocean. And I was like, I just wish I were mist on the ocean. So I didn't actively go, okay, I don't want to be here anymore exactly, or do anything about it. I didn't have concrete suicidal ideation. But yeah, I was mentally I just want this to end. So I made not good choices on the people I was hanging out with. Anytime you see a person making choices, especially repeatedly, and you're like, oh, no, this isn't good for you. We make choices to meet our needs, deep emotional needs. And so if we're doing a thing and it doesn't seem to make sense, it's because there's some core wounding need that we're trying to satisfy, right? And we're not able to, and we just keep trying, we keep trying. Instead of maybe having contempt for those people or ourselves, we have compassion, oh, okay, that's what's going on here. Oh, my heart for you. Does that mean we need to stay around people that are unsafe? No, we don't need to do that. But it doesn't mean we have to vilify them either. But maybe, now, let me back this up. If you are in an abuse dynamic and you got to vilify a person to mentally get yourself to get out of that situation, use that paradigm. These are tools. Just maybe later, we come to an understanding that okay, I don't need that anymore. And I can come to a different understanding of who this person was, I feel like people sometimes do that with particularly a parent. If a parent's been abusive, the breaking away in order to do that, oh, they're such a bad person, and then later on in life go, oh, okay, maybe I see where they're coming from. But it's when we're safe that we can do that, and after we've had our experiences validated that what they did was not okay. So, that paradigm can get switched out. So I'm not judging nobody who feels like they need to go, this person is a horrible, terrible person. I need to vilify them so I can finally feel okay to let go. If that's what you need to do to get out and be safe, do it. Do what you gotta do. And then we'll figure that mess out later. Anyway, let me just double check. Make sure I hit everything I meant to talk about. Haha. Contempt. Okay. These are actually notes for a different video, but yeah, I'll talk about that another time. So thank you very much for letting me talk to you about paradigms and identity building and show versus tell. And hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.